When I think about the future, I think about my daughter, Janie. How do I provide her with a better future? That's what we've invited you here to discuss. And how do we design our vault society so our children have that better future? I suggest we hedge our bets. Bud here has an idea for 3 interconnected vaults. But we need more ideas. We need your ideas. Because it was the spirit of competition that made our companies great. And I propose we bring that same spirit of competition to our solution. We have over 100 vaults spread across America. Enough for each of you to claim several, where you can play out your own ideas for how to create the perfect conditions for humanity, whatever you want to do. No one needs to know. And may the best idea win.
We could intentionally overcrowd a vault so people have to compete to survive inside it.
Yeah, we have been developing a robot that delivers milk to the front door. It's quite intelligent. I would like to see a vault governed by it.
What about using a vault to develop a super mutant soldier using illegal immigrants?
We could pump psychotropic drugs into the air
We
supply.
could separate parents and children, and only the smartest kids reach adulthood.
It's a fun idea. There's a lot of earning potential with the end of the world. But we're talking about making a significant investment based on a hypothetical. How can you guarantee results?
By dropping the bomb ourselves.
Sitting on the outskirts of the El Dorado Dry Lake sits Vault 11. Vault 11 was an experiment in social engineering designed to test human nature under extreme conditions. Upon entering the vault, the residents were informed that they had to choose one among them to be sacrificed each year. If they failed to comply, all of them would be killed. This grim scenario pushed the inhabitants into a cycle of fear, paranoia, and manipulation. As the years passed, the vault descended into chaos. Political factions formed, and eventually, the new overseer who was elected every year was the sacrifice. Eventually, the situation reached a breaking point when only 5 survivors remained. Desperate and broken, they decided to defy the vault's order and refuse to offer another sacrifice. In a shocking twist, they discovered that their defiance led to the vault's true purpose being revealed. There were no consequences for refusing to sacrifice anyone. It was all a psychological experiment to see if they would maintain their humanity. Tragically, only one survivor remained to carry this truth. Vault 11 stands as a haunting testament to the darkness that can arise when people are pushed to their limits. Its story is a poignant reminder of the fragility of morality under duress. Located to the east of the NCR Sharecropper Farms, Vault 34 is nestled in a secluded area, within a cave guarded by golden geckos. Vault 34 was designed with an abundance of weapons and munitions, catering to a population that had a strong focus on armament. However, the vault was also plagued with overcrowding issues, which created tensions among the inhabitants. The armory, accessible to all residents, only added fuel to the fire. As living conditions deteriorated, a group of residents demanded that the vault door be opened to allow people to leave. The overseer refused, fearing the dangers of the wasteland outside. This led to a revolt, and the rebels managed to open the door, but at a great cost. The resulting chaos damaged the vault's reactor, causing severe radiation leaks. The majority of the vault dwellers either perished or mutated due to the radiation. However, a small group managed to escape and journeyed into the Mojave Wasteland. These survivors eventually became known as the Boomers, a fiercely independent and heavily armed community. The boomers settled in Nellis Air Force Base, where they used their extensive knowledge of weapons and munitions to fortify their new home. Over time, they amassed an impressive arsenal, including howitzers and even a bomber plane. Their isolationist stance and powerful defenses made them a force to be reckoned with within the Mojave. Vault 34 remains a hazardous site filled with radiation and feral ghouls, a testament to the disastrous consequences of its armament policy and overcrowding. Meanwhile, the boomers thrive in their self-imposed isolation, dreaming of the day when they can take to the skies and claim a brighter future. Vault 21, located right under the bustling New Vegas Strip, was unique in its design. It was a vault dedicated to gambling. There could not be a better place. Every major decision, from leadership to conflict resolution, was determined by games of chance. This approach fostered a sense of fairness and equality among the inhabitants, as everyone had an equal shot at influence and power. However, the vault's fate took a turn when Mr. House, the enigmatic ruler of New Vegas, decided to incorporate Vault 21 into his grand vision for the Strip. He brokered a deal with the vault's residents, offering them a place in his new society in exchange for control of the vault. Some of the residents agreed, seeing it as an opportunity for a better life, while others resisted. The decision came down to a game of blackjack, and ultimately, the side who wanted to work with Mr. House ended up winning. Mr. House had the vault partially filled with concrete, leaving only a portion of it accessible. He transformed this section into a themed hotel and casino, maintaining the vault's gambling spirit. Sarah Weintraub, a former resident, now runs the hotel, preserving its history and charm. Vault 21 stands as a blend of old-world vault life and new-world opportunity, encapsulating the spirit of luck and chance that defines New Vegas. Nestled amidst the blocks of South Vegas, Vault 3 lies hidden beneath the ruins of a once thriving suburban area. Vault 3 was designed to be a control vault, so there were no sinister experiments planned for its inhabitants. Life inside was stable and peaceful, with residents thriving in their secure environment. However, this peace was shattered when a catastrophic water leak forced the vault dwellers to open their doors and venture into the outside world in search of a solution. Unfortunately, the vault dwellers encountered the Fiends, a ruthless and heavily armed raider gang notorious for their brutal tactics and rampant chem use. Seeing the vault as a treasure trove of resources and potential shelter, the Fiends launched a vicious attack. Despite the vault's security, the dwellers were overwhelmed and massacred. The Fiends took over Vault 3, transforming it into their headquarters. Under the leadership of Motor Runner, the Fiends used the vault as a base for their operations, terrorizing the surrounding areas. Vault 3 became synonymous with lawlessness and danger, its once thriving community reduced to a grim reminder of the wasteland's harsh realities. Located east of Bonnie Springs, Vault 19 is nestled within a secluded canyon. Located in a parking lot, it's shrouded in mystery and haunted by its past. Vault 19 was an experiment in psychological manipulation. The vault was divided into two separate, color-coded sections, the red sector and the blue sector. The residents of each sector were kept isolated from each other, with minimal interaction. Two overseers manipulated information and resources to foster distrust and paranoia between the two groups. Over time, the psychological pressure took its toll. Tensions escalated, leading to suspicion, fear, and ultimately conflict. The vault's experiment succeeded in driving the inhabitants apart, creating a volatile and unstable environment. Eventually, the residents either fled or perished, leaving the vault abandoned and filled with the remnants of its tragic past. In the Mojave Wasteland, Vault 19 was later discovered by the Powder Gangers, an escaped convict group. They turned the vault into a temporary hideout, using it as a base for their operations. However, the vault's dark history of division and distrust continued to haunt its new occupants, preventing them from establishing a stable foothold. If you happen to the western part of the Mojave Wasteland, you will discover an area overgrown with vegetation, a unique site in a nuclear wasteland. Nestled within the rugged terrain, near the base of a rocky mesa, sits Vault 22. Vault 22 was an agricultural experiment designed to test the viability of large-scale food production in a closed environment. The vault was equipped with extensive farming facilities and experimental plant growth technologies. Initially, it seemed like a promising project, but things took a dark turn. The experimental plants, designed to thrive in the vault's environment, began to mutate uncontrollably. These mutations led to the growth of aggressive, hostile flora that spread throughout the vault. The plants' rapid growth overwhelmed the facility, and their spores contributed to the vault's ultimate downfall. The vault's inhabitants, trapped and overwhelmed by the mutated plants, were driven to desperation. Most of them either perished or became infected with a fungal pathogen, turning into hostile, spore-covered creatures. The vault was eventually abandoned, leaving behind a haunting reminder of the unintended consequences of tampering with nature. Today, Vault 22 is a hazardous location, overrun by mutated plants and hostile spores, serving as a grim testament to the dangers of unchecked experimentation. Fallout. The only game where you can have a cyber-enhanced dog and a grandmother super mutant as your companions. This game and franchise is simply amazing. And with the release of the Fallout TV show, I decided to start posting Fallout content again. About 5 years ago, I had some success on this channel posting like walkthroughs for Fallout, but I wanted to try and do more and contribute to this amazing community. So this is a special video in which I want to look at what New Vegas can teach us about the Fallout TV show. So of course, in the beginning of this video, we looked at all of the vaults in Fallout New Vegas, and the point of that was in the Fallout TV show finale, we saw the meeting with Vault-Tec and the beginning of the idea for the Vault-Tec experiments. And then we can see those experiments come to fruition in Fallout New Vegas. Next, I want to look at the NCR and what Fallout New Vegas tells us about the status of the NCR. When we see the NCR in the Fallout TV show, it is nothing more than ruins, an echo of a past and bygone era. We see that Shady Sands was nuked in 2277. However, this has been corrected to be after the events of New Vegas, and according to Todd Howard, the city was nuked around 2282. Now, a lot of Fallout fans were surprised to see just how far the NCR has fallen by the time of the events of the Fallout TV show, which takes place in 2296, 15 years after the events of Fallout New Vegas. However, if we look at some of the things that people say in Fallout New Vegas, we can see that it is really not that surprising at all. If you ever stop by Camp McCarran and you talk to Thomas Hildern, he has some very interesting words about the NCR's food supply. Now, this is a man who is the Director of Operations for the Eastern Branch of the NCR-aligned Office of Science and Industry. So he's pretty knowledgeable on the subject, and he's also the man responsible for harnessing the power out of Hoover Dam. Let's see what he has to say.
No. I direct our Eastern operations. I've been responsible for squeezing unprecedented levels of power from the dam. I'm also confronting the problem of food production in what little spare time I have. But I've found some promising leads. Not yet, but our government understands the value of proactive thought. Our studies project an imbalance between production and consumption. Or, for a layman such as yourself, not enough food, too many mouths to feed. Mass starvation in a decade or so.
Now, of course, Mr. Hildern seems confident in his ability to help the NCR resolve this food crisis. However, the NCR might simply have too many issues to properly tackle this issue. Perhaps the problems of the Mojave Wasteland and problems back home were just too much for the NCR to deal with. In fact, we can see a plethora of issues that plagues the NCR and other parts of the Mojave. If we venture to the southeast of New Vegas to the 188 Trading Post, there's an arms merchant who has some very interesting details on how the NCR is recruiting and supplying its soldiers. Let's see what she has to say.
Those kids didn't desert. They just got liquored up on the strip and missed roll call. I don't know what else the brass expects. Half these kids don't get more than 2 weeks of training before they ship them out here. And sneak them extra ammo. Anyway, I was always complaining about the standard issue gear. The new kids don't even get body armor. Can you believe that? So I hooked up with a couple other vets. Bribed a gunrunner. Now we're supplying grunts, mercs, and anybody else on our side. We don't make much, but at least we're saving lives. Vegas is bleeding us dry. We're tossing caps at 100 different problems, while Caesar bides his time and lets us wear ourselves out. This war is gonna bankrupt the NCR unless we finish off the Legion fast and dirty. We shouldn't be perched up at the dam. We ought to be crossing the Colorado and sticking a boot up Caesar's ass.
So the arms merchant can teach us a few things. First, the NCR is not giving adequate training to new soldiers. Just 2 weeks for new soldiers before they're sent off to the Mojave Wasteland to fight against the horrors it holds and Caesar's Legion. Second, we learned that New Vegas is bankrupting the NCR. While New Vegas might have a lot to offer and potential, the NCR simply does not have the resources at the moment to actually move into the Mojave Wasteland and to help protect it and solve its issues. The NCR is simply overplaying its hand. And last, we learned that the NCR is not able to adequately supply its troops in the Mojave Wasteland. Troops are having to rely on third parties for things like body armor and ammunition. Definitely not a good look. To see more evidence of the NCR's downfall, we need to look no further than the banks of Lake Mead. Situated in the eastern Mojave, we can find Camp Guardian. This was meant to be a strategic stronghold for the new California Republic, a place where they could establish a foothold in the eastern Mojave and watch Legion movements. However, the new camp was plagued by mismanagement, lack of supplies, and poor leadership. The camp's troops were left vulnerable. Communication breakdowns, ineffective strategies, ineffective scouting only deepened this crisis. Eventually, the NCR soldiers who were stationed here were not defeated by a powerful enemy, but by the NCR's own failures. Camp Guardian stands today as a stark reminder of the cost of bureaucratic blunders. While exploring Camp Guardian, you will find several logs written by Sergeant Banner. In some of those logs, we get some very interesting information. For example, day 18, we finally got the radio from McCarran. I've set it up on the peak so anyone on Overwatch duty can quickly radio in if the Legion makes a move. I'd like to know which genius back at command decided to send a squad to this location, but didn't think to give us a radio so we could actually call in an attack. Probably another politician's son. At Camp Guardian, we can see the true effects of the NCR's ineptitude. The NCR is making serious mistakes and it's costing people their lives. And a lot of these mistakes are attributed to nepotism. Within the NCR, the best people are not being put into positions of power. Rather, people are being put into positions of power based on who they know. And this is severely hurting the NCR. The last thing I want to look at is what is happening within the new California Republic to the west. In the Fallout TV show, we can see that it's extremely dry and there's a severe lack of water. Such as in this scene where we see a man in a ranger outfit sifting through the sands of California, looking for some loot in order to make a living. In another now very famous scene when Lucy confronts a man surviving in the wasteland, we can see just how valuable water has become in the new California Republic.
Sorry, sir, I need that.
Yeah, me too. Thank you. Somebody hands you a bottle of clean water and you drink it. Even if you're not thirsty, you drink it.
As we can see in the Fallout TV show, there are serious water issues plaguing Southern California. However, these are not new issues. If we venture over to Camp Goff and talk to Chief Henlon, we can learn a lot about the NCR's water crisis.
Back west, you don't see too many of these.
Lakes, I mean. Natural or man-made. Any kind, really. We neglected the dams or pumped all the water out a long time ago. Owens, Isabella, the San Luis drained the aquifers of everything they had. Just a lot of mud and dust now. It's a different feeling watching the sun come up over the water. Takes some getting used to.
So obviously in Fallout New Vegas, we can see the beginning of the downfall of the NCR. We see all of the issues that it's facing, and it's just a massive crossfire that the NCR simply cannot handle. And with the nuking of Shady Sands, the whole thing just simply fell apart, and now there's nothing left but remnants of the NCR. Next, I want to spend some time talking about Mr. House. House, of course, made a surprise appearance in the Fallout TV show, participating in the Vault-Tec meeting. Interestingly, during that meeting, House is the only one openly critical of Vault-Tec's plan and proposal. Now, if you're new to Fallout or don't know much about House, you might be wondering, how did Las Vegas, and Mr. House for that matter, survive the nuclear apocalypse, leaving Las Vegas, now New Vegas, as a shining beacon in the nuclear apocalypse? Well, thankfully, House himself has some answers.
It was a place of splendor. As magnificent as today's Strip may seem, it's but a shadow of the neon paradise that was Las Vegas. I grew up not far from here, and though I traveled the old world extensively, I never found another place like it. By 2065, I deemed it a mathematical certainty that an atomic war would devastate the Earth within 15 years. Every projection I ran confirmed it. I knew I couldn't save the world, nor did I care to, but I could save Vegas, and in the process, perhaps save mankind. I set to work immediately. I thought I had plenty of time to prepare. As it turned out, I was 20 hours short. On the day of the Great War, 77 atomic warheads targeted Las Vegas and its surrounding areas. My networked mainframes were able to predict and force transmit disarm code subsets to 59 warheads, neutralizing them before impact. Laser cannons mounted on the roof of the Lucky 38 destroyed another 9 warheads. The rest got through, though none hit the city itself. A suboptimal performance, admittedly. If only the Platinum chip had arrived a day sooner. The Platinum chip was printed in Sunnyvale, California on October 22nd, 2077, the day before the Great War. It was to have been delivered by courier the following afternoon, but by then, the world had ended. The chip contained vital software upgrades, but not just for my Securitrons. Every aspect of the missile defense grid would have been upgraded too. Given that I had to make do with buggy software, the outcome could have been worse. I nearly died as it was. Software glitches set off a cascade of system crashes. I had to take the Lucky 38's reactor offline, lest it melt down. For nearly 5 years, I battled power outages and more system crashes until I finally managed to reboot my data core with an older version of the OS. I spent the next few decades in a veritable coma, but I survived, obviously, and eventually thrived.
So as Mr. House says in his dialogue, he predicted that the nuclear apocalypse would happen. Now in the TV show, we can see that he pretty much knew it was going to happen, and I believe both of these things can be true. Mr. House can have predicted the nuclear apocalypse that was coming, and then he could have attended the meeting and had concrete knowledge that it was going to happen. I think the Mr. House we see in this meeting has already decided that the nuclear apocalypse is coming, and that he's already making his plays to protect Las Vegas. Now, if we continue talking to Mr. House, we can get some of his thoughts on the NCR and their strategy at Hoover Dam.
General Oliver's strategy, or tunnel vision, as I like to call it, has been to mass troops at Hoover Dam. He wants to outfight the Legion in a straightforward slugging match, and then, when they rout, pursue and destroy them in detail. A crushing, decisive victory of this sort would overshadow the tactical ingenuity of Chief Hanlon's defense 4 years ago, you see. Indeed it was, and still is, but not without taking significant casualties. Would Kimball and Oliver have traded the lives of hundreds of soldiers for absolute control of Hoover Dam? Oh, yes. They weren't afraid of me. They were afraid of Caesar, that attacking me would leave them vulnerable to a Legion offensive. And so they negotiated, not out of the kindness of their hearts, as they try to make it seem, because the calculus of power left no other choice. NCR forces were permitted to occupy Hoover Dam and establish a military base at McCarran Airport. Well, it used to be one. They recognized my sovereignty over the Vegas Strip and agreed to supply electricity and water once their engineers repaired the dam. Written into the treaty were provisions that the NCR do nothing to prevent its soldiers and civilians from visiting the Strip. That's how I harnessed the NCR to my endeavor. Their occupation has been the engine of my growing economy. The salient issue is that they will go to war with me if given the chance. There's just one reason why the NCR hasn't contrived some outrage to justify invading the Strip. Caesar's Legion. The final battle between those two armies is fast approaching. I can't afford to let either side win on their terms. What else did you want to discuss?
From this conversation, we can learn a few things. First, we learn that Mr. House believes that General Oliver has a sort of grudge or bone to pick with Chief Hanlon. Chief Hanlon obviously led the heroic defense of Hoover Dam the first time. Second, we learn about the fragile relationship between Mr. House and the NCR. Mr. House really believes that the NCR would betray him if given the chance, and that the only reason they haven't tried to take over the Strip is because of Caesar's Legion. So finally, I wanted to make a prediction. What to make of all of this information, especially regarding the NCR and Mr. House. Of course, with the ending of the Fallout TV show and it teasing New Vegas, a lot of people want to know which ending in New Vegas is canon. Did Mr. House win? Or did the NCR win? Did Caesar's Legion win? Or was it the Courier who came out on top? Based on what we know, I think there's two possible scenarios. First, the NCR won the Battle of Hoover Dam and killed Mr. House. After Shady Sands was nuked, the NCR just did not have the resources to properly manage New Vegas, and New Vegas fell into a state of disrepair. Now, an issue with this theory, I think, though, is I do think the Fallout TV show would want to incorporate Mr. House some way, somehow, since he is such a compelling and well-written character. And since they teased him, or he had an appearance in Season 1, I highly doubt that he doesn't show up in Season 2. Now, a way they could potentially solve this is because of Mr. House's love for technology and his technological ability, perhaps he uploaded his brain to an AI or some kind of computer, right? Obviously, in Fallout New Vegas, House is using extremely advanced life support systems to keep himself alive. But he could have done something else as a failsafe. House is a very smart man, and he is the kind of person that would have backup plans in case his original plan fails. The second scenario that I think is probably the most likely is that Mr. House did win the Battle of Hoover Dam, in the sense that the NCR did win on Mr. House's terms, as Mr. House says. And when this happens, and when Shady Sands gets nuked, the NCR has to pull resources away from the Mojave, leading to its eventual decline. As we see Mr. House say, the NCR is critical for New Vegas's economy. Without the NCR to support in firepower and economically, I think maybe the Mojave Wasteland entered a state of decline. As we can see in Fallout New Vegas, Mr. House does not mind waiting and biding his time. He could have easily just taken his Securitrons and retreated back into the Lucky 38 and sealed it shut, which I think is very possible. Because in the credits of the Fallout TV show, we can see the New Vegas Strip, and it looks like it's in very bad shape. We can see the tops, we can see the Lucky 38, of course, and the Ultralux, and it all just looks very destroyed. We see dead Deathclaws, we see destroyed vertibirds, so it would seem like something chaotic happened on the Strip, perhaps with the NCR, and a Deathclaw attack. We know there's a lot of Deathclaws in the Mojave Wasteland. Now, once the NCR leaves the Mojave Wasteland, I would also imagine that remnants from Caesar's Legion could give the Mojave Wasteland a lot of trouble. Of course, Caesar's Legion would know that there's a lot of resources and a lot of money in the Mojave Wasteland, making sense for them to try and go there and to acquire some of that opportunity. So, in my opinion, Mr. House probably is the canon ending of Fallout New Vegas. I just find it hard to believe that the show writers would exclude Mr. House from Season 2. But what do you guys think? What do you guys think is the canon ending for Fallout New Vegas? I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I had a lot of fun making it, and it was a really good experience for me. If you have any comments or questions, please post them below. Until next time.